Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. It is Tuesday, as we love to say here, Tuesday on the Rocks on the Now Morning Show. And joining me, we have producer Rishma B. And we're going to be talking about the film that's supposed to be showing at the Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival, which is Studio 17, The Lost Reggae Tips. Rishma, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Now.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, Rishma, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that you're the producer of the film, but before we get into the film, how did you become a producer? What is your background? I'd love to get to know you.
So I guess you can tell by my British accent, I was born and raised in London, in West London, which if anyone has been there, we have the Notting Hill Carnival. It's a huge Caribbean hub. So before I even embarked on being a producer of this film, you know, the film is about some lost reggae tapes, as you can tell by the title. I have been covering reggae as a music journalist for a long time, you know, spanning all the way from being a stringer for the BBC, covering interviews and international reggae festivals. And so that kind of embarked in me doing a lot of writing. And I am residing here in New York City, where I've written for multiple platforms like Billboard, Vibe Magazine, Massappeal. I've done a lot of work with Tidal, the streaming platform, which I'm still the reggae and dancehall curator for. Shout out to Tidal. And, you know, I came across this film actually 7 years ago. So I have had a whole career in the time that I have finished producing this film. Studio 17, The Lost Reggae Tapes, to, you know, a multi-layered film about some lost tapes, but it's really also about a human story about one man's quest to keep his legacy alive. So there's a lot going on here, whether you're a reggae aficionado or whether you're just someone who loves music and loves the fact that you can hear some unheard music from some reggae greats. I think that the film has something for everybody. That's the kind of feedback we've been getting. So it's really exciting to show this to Trinidad and Tobago audience.
Nice. Now, going back to the film, is it that you would have interviewed some of these dancehall greats, or is it just about the music? I mean, what exactly is involved?
We definitely have some greats of reggae. I mean, we're talking where the film really touches on how reggae was born. So we're going from ska, rocksteady to reggae. So it's very much about the early stages of the music and how it developed and how this culture has come about. And yes, we have some amazing interviews, actually some of the last interviews with the late great Lee Scratch Perry, Rico Rodriguez, Barney Lee, RIP to all of these greats that I feel so privileged now that we were able to have a chance to be with them. But in terms of Trinidad and Tobago, one of the stars of the film who we got to interview was Lord Creator, who, as you know, is from Trinidad, and he has an amazing story in there. So I hope everybody gets to check it out about him, you know, moving to Jamaica, getting a huge hit. He actually sang Independent Jamaica. We just celebrated 70 years of Jamaican independence. So shout out to Jamaica for that. And it's really his story about what happens as a musician going from Trinidad to Jamaica, then trying to make it, like lots of many Jamaicans, musicians. And, you know, he has, you know, his story, he falls on hard times. But as you know, his story was, his song, Kingston Town, was re-recorded by UB40. And, you know, through the royalties of UB40, he now resides in his big house with all his... in Jamaica. So it's a happy story, but you know, the film touches on the economics of all the industry also, not just something you've probably heard of within the reggae genre, but something that is kind of unique to music in general. We're always hearing about who owns what rights, and we really, you know, the film naturally delves into those types of subjects.
Yeah, and of course, all those are important, but I'm also wondering as well, Rishma, I mean, Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival, how did the film become a part of our film festival here locally?
Actually, I don't know, because they reached out to us, and it's been a very organic process. As you know, the film was released right at the end of 2019 on the BBC. It's a part BBC production, and we were on the film festival circuit January 2020, and as you know, the pandemic hit and nothing happened. So we put this out the year after, and this year, as everything has opened up, we've had many invitations from all over the world. We've shown in Brazil, we've done a whole Canadian tour, Spain, Rotterdam, London at Carnival. We're doing more tours in Carnival. We've got Belgium now. We've had Poland, and Trinidad and Tobago reached out, and it's all been a very much of an organic process, and we're supporting the people that are supporting us, and it's amazing to know that we want people in Tobago want to see the film, and we are excited about that, especially as Lord Creator mentions in the film that he comes from Tobago, from Trinidad.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an exciting part of the audience for us to reach.
Of course. Now, when you were talking about the music, dancehall and your background, there was a passion that was coming through about the music. And so I'm wondering, what was it about this particular project that you were like, yes, I'm going to produce this documentary film about dancehall music?
Well, as I mentioned, the film has taken 7 years to complete, but it all started because I really was doing this story, and I came across it after the subject of the film, Clive Chin. His son was tragically murdered, and he was looking to put out these lost tapes, and he has this archive of almost 1,200 tapes, and I was invited to his office to come and do an interview with him, but he started playing me with this tapes. To cut a long story short, I listened to some of this stuff. It was like, you're listening to unheard Dennis Brown, you're listening to Alton Ellis, you're listening to Bob Marley, you're listening to all of these things that I'm like, oh my God, this is a time capsule. I did the story for BBC Radio 4. At the time, I was working for BBC Radio, and that was for the 50th anniversary of Jamaican independence movement, how we are celebrating 60 years, and the film has finally materialized into a film. So after I had done the show, after I had done the radio segment, I was able to link up with the director, Mark James, who took a great interest in the film. But, doing a music documentary means that you're talking about music rights. You're talking that also in the film, there was, and, we had to stop recording at one time because the family were debating about the ownership of the archive. So there was a lot of things that happened. So a lot of the film is literally a documentary. Yes. Things are being documented in real life. But it's amazing to see this film finally come out, and people have really received it well. We've had many accolades, and many people write about us. Shout out to all of the places that have Essence and Vibe magazine, and Rolling Stone, GQ. We want to shout out
all the magazines who would have come together and just highlighted.
Yeah, we just
know. Now, quick question, Rishma. So you mentioned these tapes that you were listening to, all these tapes that he had. I mean, is this film supposed to be some sort of way to save that archive, to let people know exactly what's out there, what's going to happen to all those tapes eventually? Is it that it's going to go into ownership to you, or what's going to happen to all those tapes? On music.
The ownership stays with Clive Chin. It's his archive. This was just a film documenting it. And, there are some unreleased songs in there. There's a special song that we re-record in the film, which is a Dennis Brown track. He's an late great Dennis Brown. You can't imagine hearing an unheard song from him. So you can only hear it in the film. There will be music that is going to be released due to popular demand throughout, now that the film has shown. But that is really all up to Clive Chin and what he wants to do with it. But if you really want to hear some classic reggae and want to know about all that type of stuff and unheard stuff, you have to come and watch the film. And that's part of the surprise of watching the film. So yes. Stay tuned. And you can also check us out on Linktree. It's Studio 17 Movie. That's where we're posting everything in real time about where we're going to screen next and what we're doing. And so it could be a city near you. But right now, this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Monday, I believe, we're going to be screening at the Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival. And I hope people get to come. I hope you get to come and watch it with us.
Well, I mean, pretty much, because I'm hearing about some unreleased music, and I do love reggae, so that has actually piqued my interest. Final question for you, though, Rishma. I'm hearing the passion in your voice again, and I'm just wondering, how were you able to stay motivated to get this film materialized after 7 years?
I'm not sure. I mean, funding is a big part of it, and that's part of also why it took a long time. When I started making the film, I realized that a lot of these musicians, great musicians who are sitting here, Jimmy Cliff, like people in front of us, that are just legends telling their truth. And what we didn't want to do is compromise that truth. So we didn't take any funding from record labels. We thought it was in places like that where we did not want to really shift our vision and wanted to tell the story that we thought was true to be said to us. So that was a really important part. So funding takes a lot, obviously that made a big difference in how quickly you can finish something. So everything wasn't done because we had a big pot of money and we were able just to keep doing it. We had to continue to raise funds throughout the process. And at the time you think, oh my God, this is taking too long, but as the good old Jamaican saying goes, nothing before the time.
Nothing before the time. And I think that's where we're going to end it. Miss B, thank you so much for joining us on the Now Morning Show, and all the best with the recording. I will take up your offer and I'm going to come to see the film. So I hope you have a good time with that and everybody can see it as well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
Have a good one. And that was Miss Rishma B, of course, who's the producer of The Lost Tapes. Up next, we have Shamla with Unique, Not Different. Stay with us.